This video is part of the Commercial Building Electrical Design series, talking about lighting design, going through the different light sources, and this time we're talking about sodium-based high-intensity discharge light fixtures. Again, following our outline, we'll continue to add to our sources here with the pressure sodium type lamps today. So there are different types of sodium vapor lamps that utilize high and low pressure. The most common is the high pressure version, as it is much cheaper, and it does have a slightly better color spectrum. Still is not good though. However, the low pressure version is more efficient. It's probably the most efficient type of lighting other than LED type of lighting, and it actually competes with it in some areas. So the low pressure version though is the only time I've ever seen it used. It's typically required near beaches where sea turtles are known to habitat. So I did a condominium years ago down on the Gulf Coast, and that was one of the permit comments I had, was I didn't use low pressure sodium lighting, which I was unaware at the time, so I had to look it up and make some phone calls. And for some reason, the low pressure sodiums are less harmful to the turtles. It's the soft-backed shell turtles. I don't really know the details of it, just know that that's what's required there in their parking lots if you're going to have something near the beach. So again, HID lighting is still widely used for the most part. Again, as I've said a couple times before, the LEDs are starting to take over that market, but you'll still see some of the HID lightings. And there are issues and design considerations you need to take into account. So we want to continue our look at the HID type of lighting by looking at these sodium vapor lamps. So sodium vapor lamps, like I said, are the most efficient of all the HID type lamps. They have an efficiency that is considered to be excellent. Typical values for these types of luminaires are in the 100 lumens per watt range for the high pressure sodium, and the low pressure sodium can get up to 200 lumens per watt. So that is exceptional. The sodium vapor luminaires have pretty good lamp life. They're not quite as good as some of the other lamps. Typical lamp life for these types of luminaires are 24,000 hours for the high pressure sodium. But you're only going to get probably around 18 to maybe 20,000 hours for low pressure sodium. So you do have a little bit of a trade-off there when these types of lamps. Sodium vapor fixtures typically experience some minor depreciation when calculating the light loss factors. So typically for these types of fixtures for the high pressure sodium, they have a LLF of around 80% or in the 80s. It's not the case though for the low pressure sodium. Low pressure sodium are very good as far as the light loss factors. You can even on some occasions get up close to 100% on these guys. So the losses go down considerably with the low pressure sodium. So up to this point, it sounded like low pressure sodium is amazing, right? So that should be maybe the thing we should be using all the time. Well, here's the catch. The spectral power distribution for all sodium vapor lamps is not very good. It's actually horrible. If you look at this chart here, so this is for high pressure sodium. You can see it's very heavy in the yellow to red range. So right here. So that's why if you've seen these types used, it makes everything look yellow. I mean, there is a little bit in the green, but just almost nothing in these others. Go to low pressure sodium, it's even worse. It's almost just one color right here, this yellow color. So these are super yellow, so it makes everything look dull and washed out. I mean, there's almost no color representation in the other spectrum. So if you don't care so much about that, then this is the light bulb for you. And so this is why you will see this in parking lots for places where they don't care what it looks like at their car lot, and they would never use these because you don't want your cars to look that way. You also see the low pressure sodiums used quite a bit in parking garages, so it is a good application for them there. Again, just touching base on this coefficient of utilization. Again, a lot of factors go into this, but for low pressure sodium, it's considered to be acceptable for high pressure sodium. It's actually fair for low pressure sodium, again, but I think this has to do with, even though all the other factors are good, that power spectral density is really hitting them pretty hard on this one. Again, as we look at these lamps and comparing them, we want to think about how do we control them, what's the restart, warm up, dimming. So again, due to the need to strike an arc in these types of bulbs, there is the issue involved with cold weather, so they are required to warm up. You can get the hot restrike on these as well if you want. Most of the time they're using parking lots though, so most people don't care if it takes them a minute to warm up. But again, they don't much care for that. They do have the capability to be dimmed, so you can dim these fixtures. I don't know that I've ever seen that utilized. I mean, I've seen it in the literature that they can do it. I don't know that I know I've never done it on a project. I don't know that I've ever seen one where that's actually been done. So sodium vapor lighting, high pressure and low pressure, is generally considered a good option for most exterior commercial applications where color rendering is not important. So like I said, not in car lots or anywhere where you're wanting to display anything. So a lot of times, even if the parking lot's in the front of the building, they don't like it because they don't want it to make their building look dingy. If the parking lot's in the back of the building, a lot of times they'll use it. So that being said, there are these constraints you need to be aware of if you're using these, the restart, the color rendering, those types of things. So just keep that in mind as you're looking at these types of fixtures. So this wraps up our HID lighting for this lecture.